Seeing wild animals in their natural habitats is the dream of every safari goer, but sometimes that dream turns into a nightmare. In this article, we share the stories of 5 people who came face to face with some of nature's most powerful creatures and paid the ultimate price. From tourists who underestimated the dangers of the wild to those caught in an unlucky twist of fate, these incidents are a chilling reminder that wildlife safaris can be as deadly as they are thrilling. Juliana Gletourneau had traveled thousands of miles from her home in New Mexico to Zambia, driven by her love for adventure and her devotion to spreading her faith. At 64, she had already lived a life filled with purpose, raising her children, caring for aging parents, teaching women about biblical hospitality, and dedicating herself to her church community. But this trip was different. This trip was meant to combine her love for travel with a mission to witness Africa's wildlife and bring inspiration to those around her. On the afternoon of June 19, 2024, Juliana and her group were near the Morima Cultural Bridge in Livingston, marveling at a herd of elephants slowly moving through the area. Elephants were majestic, gentle giants, a common and cherished sight in Zambia. Yet, even the most familiar creatures could harbor a dangerous unpredictability. As their safari vehicle slowed to allow the tourists a closer view, the air was filled with awe, cameras clicking, whispers of wonder. Then, in a heartbeat, everything changed. According to one account, one of the elephants grew aggressive without warning. Juliana, seated and enthralled by the moment, was suddenly thrown from the vehicle. Panic erupted around her. Before anyone could react, the massive animal trampled her, leaving fatal injuries in its wake. It all happened in a matter of seconds at 5:50 p.m., a moment that would forever haunt those who witnessed it. However, another version of events emerged. The Livingstone Tourism Association disputed this account, stating that the tragedy occurred after tourists had left their vehicle, violating park regulations. They insisted that no record existed of an elephant pulling someone from a vehicle, calling attention to how unpredictable human-wildlife interactions could become in shared spaces. Elephants are intelligent, social creatures, often forming tight-knit family groups. Yet, even the calmest of them can turn dangerous if startled or feeling threatened. In Zambia, as in other parts of the world, human activity increasingly intersects with their natural habitats, and the results can be tragic. Authorities responded quickly, confirming Juliana's death and noting that it marked the second fatal elephant attack in the country that year. Locals expressed growing concern about the rising presence of elephants near residential and tourist areas, highlighting the fine line between fascination and danger. For Juliana's family back in New Mexico, the news was incomprehensible. A devoted wife, mother, and community pillar, she had always lived to inspire and care for others. Her sudden death left a void that words could scarcely describe. Efforts were made to return her body home, but the heartbreak lingered. A stark reminder that even in moments of wonder, nature's raw power is never to be underestimated. Carlos Carvalho had spent decades behind the camera, capturing the breathtaking beauty of nature through his lens. An award-winning cinematographer, he had traveled across continents, working with both actors and wildlife, and had learned to navigate unpredictable environments with remarkable skill. Filming in the wild was never without risk, but Carlos had faced countless challenges before and emerged unscathed. On May 2, 2018, at the Glen Africa Country Lodge in South Africa, Carlos was shooting scenes for a feature film, focusing his camera on a giraffe named Gerald. The day had been smooth. The main filming was complete. The animal wranglers had moved the giraffe off set, and the crew was winding down. But Carlos, ever the perfectionist, decided to capture some final shots on his own, drawn to the towering presence of Gerald, nearly 18 feet tall, with a graceful yet imposing frame. Giraffes are usually seen as gentle giants, but male giraffes have a behavior called necking, where they swing their heads with astonishing force to assert dominance. At that moment, Gerald bent his long neck, spread his legs slightly, and struck with devastating precision. Carlos was caught off guard. The impact hit him square in the head, sending him flying through the air. He crashed to the ground unconscious, blood streaming from his eyes and ears, an unmistakable sign of severe trauma. Crew members watched in horror as it unfolded, unable to intervene in time. Paramedics rushed to the scene, and Carlos was airlifted to Mill Park Hospital in Johannesburg. Doctors fought tirelessly to stabilize him, but the injuries were too severe. That evening, at 8:50 p.m., Carlos succumbed to the trauma, leaving the film industry and those who knew him in stunned grief. Colleagues remembered him not only as a masterful cinematographer, but as a kind, passionate storyteller whose work had left an indelible mark on audiences around the world. The Glen Africa Country Lodge expressed deep sorrow over the incident, but emphasized that Gerald had acted naturally. The giraffe was not at fault. An independent investigation was launched, which suggested that Carlos may have approached the animal too closely, though no official report directly blamed him. His death was a tragic reminder that even the gentlest of creatures can turn deadly in an instant, and that the wild, beautiful world he devoted his life to capturing could be as perilous as it was inspiring. In the blink of an eye, a career spent celebrating life in its rawest form ended in heartbreak, leaving behind a legacy of passion, courage, and artistry that would never be forgotten. It was a warm Sunday morning in South Africa's Pilanesberg National Park, the sun casting golden light over the rolling plains and the remnants of an ancient volcanic crater. For Carlos Luna, a 43-year-old tourist from Bahia de los Caballeros, Spain, it seemed like the perfect day. Camera in hand, he scanned the horizon, searching for the perfect shot, an image that would capture the raw, untamed beauty of the African wilderness. He had no idea that within moments, the serenity of the morning would erupt into chaos. Carlos had traveled to South Africa with his fiancée, eager to experience the park's renowned wildlife firsthand. Accompanying them were two of her local friends, who were equally excited to explore Pilanesberg's vast expanse of over 320 square miles. The park was a sanctuary of life, home to Africa's most iconic animals: elephants, lions, leopards, rhinos, and every inch of it seemed alive with movement, color, and sound. The day promised adventure, discovery, and unforgettable moments, but it also carried a silent, invisible danger that Carlos would soon confront. Entering the park through the Bukatla Gate, the group immediately felt immersed in the wilderness. Every turn of the vehicle revealed breathtaking landscapes, ancient rock formations, and signs of the animals that called this place home. Not long into their drive, the group came across a breeding herd of elephants gathered near a glistening lake. From the safety of the vehicle, Carlos watched, mesmerized, as the massive creatures drank, splashed water, and gently nudged their young. The sunlight glinted off their wrinkled hides, highlighting the majesty and scale of these gentle giants. For a moment, it felt like time had slowed until Carlos saw an opportunity he could not resist. Ignoring the protests of his fiancée and the clear warnings posted throughout the park, Carlos stepped out of the vehicle. His heart raced with excitement as he inched closer, determined to capture a close-up photograph that would immortalize the elephant's grace. At the center of the herd stood a matriarch, a massive 3.5-ton female, her eyes sharp and watchful. Flanking her were two enormous bulls and three vulnerable calves. The matriarch exuded calm authority, but every muscle in her massive frame was alert, and her protective instincts were ready to spring into action. As Carlos drew nearer, the tranquility shattered. The matriarch's gaze locked onto him, sensing a potential threat to her young. In a heartbeat, she charged, her enormous feet pounding the earth like thunder. The two bulls followed, and the air seemed to vibrate with their raw power. Carlos froze for a fraction of a second, then panic surged. He tried to retreat, screaming for help, but the herd's speed and strength were overwhelming. Within moments, he was overtaken. The matriarch's massive frame collided with him, and he was thrown to the ground, trampled beneath their enormous feet. What followed was a scene of unimaginable horror. Clothing and personal items were scattered across the grass. The marks of the stampede etched the earth, and those inside the vehicle could only watch, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. The air was thick with the sounds of thundering footsteps and desperate cries. Park rangers arrived within minutes, But the elephants, having neutralized the perceived threat, melted back into the dense bush. Emergency responders tried their best, but by the time help reached him, it was too late. Carlos Luna's life had been claimed in the blink of an eye. Elephants, especially when young calves are present, are among the most fiercely protective animals in the world. A female can weigh up to 4 tons and charge at speeds exceeding 25 miles per hour, while bulls are even taller and stronger, capable of causing devastating injuries without hesitation. Their intelligence and strong social bonds make them vigilant guardians, reacting instinctively to any potential threat. In that fleeting, terrifying moment, Carlos had underestimated the raw power of these gentle giants. In the aftermath, officials from the Northwest Parks and Tourism Board expressed their deepest condolences, emphasizing that park regulations exist for one reason: to protect both humans and wildlife. Signs warning visitors to remain inside vehicles are not mere suggestions, they are lifelines, and ignoring them can lead to fatal consequences. Conservation officers highlighted the tragedy as a stark lesson. Even the most serene-looking animals can turn deadly when provoked or threatened. For those who knew him, Carlos was more than a tourist or photographer. He was a passionate adventurer, someone who lived to capture the wonders of the world through his lens. His death sent shockwaves through his family, friends, and the global community of wildlife enthusiasts. It was a reminder that nature, as beautiful as it is uncompromising and unforgiving, and that one misstep, one moment of overconfidence, can change everything. Carlos Luna's pursuit of the perfect photograph had ended in tragedy, leaving behind grief, unanswered questions, and an indelible warning about the untamed power of the wild. On a warm August morning in 2020, the sun rose over Limpopo, South Africa, casting long shadows across the Thorny Bush River Lodge. It was meant to be an ordinary day for Sheldon Hooper, a 27-year-old safari guide with a deep love for wildlife and an unshakable sense of duty. But within moments, the routine of the morning would give way to a tragedy that would haunt his family, colleagues, and the conservation community forever. Sheldon had joined the lodge less than a year earlier, quickly earning admiration for his kindness, sharp wit, and profound respect for animals. He was more than a guide. He was a storyteller, a photographer, a writer, and an advocate for inclusive conservation. His quirky humor and infectious smile left a lasting impression on everyone he met, and his commitment to giving opportunities to less privileged South Africans made him a beloved figure both inside and outside the lodge. On August 18, 2020, Sheldon was tasked with inspecting the lodge's perimeter fence after reports that elephants had breached the area during the night. Accompanied by a co-worker, he ventured into the wild, unaware that the morning held a deadly encounter. They soon came upon a herd of 9 elephants, 3 adult females, and 6 calves grazing and moving with quiet authority. Despite the distance of roughly 20 meters, the proximity to the young elephants was perilously close. Then, without warning, one of the adult females charged. Maternal instincts flared into deadly force. Sheldon was struck by her tusks, the impact piercing his knee and fatally wounding him just above the heart. In the chaos, he somehow remained conscious long enough to call his girlfriend, Rebecca Rolls, a fellow lodge employee. She rushed to his side, holding him as life slipped away, a desperate attempt to save him that ended in heartbreak. The lodge initially stated he had died within 20 minutes, but his father, Gordon Hooper, later revealed that records indicated it took 42 minutes, raising haunting questions about the response time. Adding to the anguish was the knowledge that Sheldon was mere meters from the lodge's royal suite when attacked, and that the elephant responsible had targeted 10 other people in recent weeks. Why no preventive measures had been taken weighed heavily on his family. The Hoopers were determined to uncover the truth. Sheldon had gone on a fence inspection unarmed with necessary tools, and they refused to accept that his death was simply a tragic accident. The lodge commissioned an independent investigation, yet Gordon doubted its objectivity. Undeterred, he conducted his own meticulous reconstruction, piecing together Sheldon's phone records, emails, and messages to understand the events leading to the fatal encounter. Despite their appeals, the lodge refused to revise its official account. The pain for Gordon and his wife Cindy was more than grief. It was trauma, the kind that cuts deep into the soul of a parent. Determined not to let Sheldon's death be in vain, they launched the Sheldon Hooper Little 5 Million Foundation, a mission to make conservation more inclusive, continuing the work that had defined his life. Sheldon's memory lives on through every life touched by the foundation, and in the hearts of those who knew him, a young man with a boundless spirit, taken too soon in a tragedy that his family believes could have been prevented. A vacation meant to celebrate life and family turned into heartbreak when Carol Sue Kirkin, a beloved figure from Rochester Hills, Michigan, met a sudden and tragic end during a safari in Tanzania. At 75, Carol had lived a life full of purpose, energy, and compassion, and her loss sent shockwaves through the community she had devoted herself to for decades. Carol was more than a professional. She was a force of nature. A registered nurse, she had extended her influence far beyond healthcare, working as a physician services representative and doctor recruiter for Kittenton Hospital Medical Center, improving lives in ways both direct and indirect. She co-founded the Women's Fund of Rochester Hills, raising substantial donations to support women and children in need, volunteered at the North Oakland YMCA, and offered support to military families. In every role she undertook, Carol brought a rare combination of empathy, intellect, and determination, inspiring those around her to act not out of obligation but from genuine admiration. She was also a national vice president with Arbonne Cosmetics Company, where she taught educational classes and quietly led by example. Colleagues remembered her presence as invigorating, her sincerity compelling. When she spoke, people listened, drawn by her unwavering passion and dedication to causes greater than herself. Travel was another of her joys. She documented her adventures with vivid posts, sharing the wonders of the world through the eyes of someone truly alive to every moment. In August of 2017, Carol embarked on a family safari in Tanzania with her son, Robert, a university dean from Corpus Christi, Texas. The trip was meant to be a joyful exploration of Africa's wildlife. On August 5th, while observing a group of hippos in their natural habitat, the idyllic day turned into an unimaginable tragedy. Hippos, despite their seemingly docile, herbivorous nature, are fiercely territorial and notoriously dangerous, responsible for hundreds of human deaths each year. Their speed, power, and unpredictability leave little room for escape. Carol's encounter was sudden and fatal. Details remain limited, but it is known that she died swiftly, in her son's arms, leaving no time for intervention. Just hours before, she had posted about witnessing the great migration of hippos and bull elephants, her excitement and wonder radiating through the words. That same spirit of curiosity and fearlessness, so emblematic of her adventurous soul, brought her to the very edge of life that day. The news devastated her family and community. Social media filled with tributes, disbelief, and grief. Her grandson, Eric Strickler, called her the greatest grandmother anyone could ask for. Friends described her as a dynamo, a rocket of passion and energy who lifted everyone around her simply by being present. Those who had served alongside her on boards, committees, and philanthropic projects remembered her quiet yet relentless leadership and her tireless drive to make a difference. Carol's obituary captured the magnitude of the loss of a woman who had lived fully, determined to reach a century, and who was taken far too soon. Survived by her husband, Bill, 3 children, and 5 grandchildren, her absence left a void, both personal and communal. Yet, her legacy endures. Through every life she touched, every cause she championed, Carol Sue Kirkin remains a reminder that one person's passion, energy, and love can ripple outward, leaving an indelible mark on a world now painfully aware of her absence.